2 minutes to showtime. One minute to showtime.
As certain as free men right to live unencumbered and in peace. And quickly drawing to an end. And in these times, peace is certainly an illusion. And as the chains grow tighter, our ability to slip those chains increase incrementally with every passing moment. Inaction is no longer an option. It's time to raise our voices like a cacophony of thunder and lightning and tell the masters no more. This is Nighthawk, and I say, for myself, no more. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, because the freedom is slipping away.
And greetings, Earth Explorers. Welcome to X Squared Radio. I'm your host, Brooks Agnew, coming to you live through the America Free Radio studios on Revolution Radio on freedomslips.com. So glad you could be here with us tonight. Happy Father's Day belated for all of you out there, and July 4th is coming up. Don't forget, on July 4th, I will be joining Red Pill 78 on his program. We'll be discussing my #1 bestseller, Charm of Favor. So if you're a Red Pill fan, make sure to visit his program on Saturday night, July 4th. It's going to be a great time. Also, an added feature that we're giving to Revolution Radio listeners if you're out there listening on revolutionradio.com, at freedomslips.com, or if you're watching us live on YouTube right now, you can join us now without having to pick up the phone and call. You can do it through voice chat through Discord. Voice chat through Discord. I'm going to give you the Discord address several times during the program, but here is the address for those of you that use Discord. Of course, it is discord.gg, right? Discord.gg, and then / and then the address. Now, the address at discord.gg is, it's scrolling across my YouTube screen right now. Z, beta, capital Y, H, capital V for Victor, number 5. That is it. That is the address. I'll give that one more time as it comes around. Just for you people that are listening by audio, you can write this down. You can go to your Discord on your phone, and you can join us by chat. All you have to do is look for America Free Radio and come in the general and join by voice. Discord.gg / ZB, capital Y, H, capital V as in Victor, 5. And that's how you reach us via voice chat. I will ask for the comments, and then you can press your control key and come in. You know the drill. All right, we have a lot of news to cover tonight. Let's get on with it. For the last 2 weeks, I have been reporting to you that BLM does not actually exist. Well, let me use a couple of left-wing sources to confirm that, just so we can fact check. Factcheck.org and PolitiFact confirmed that Black Lives Matter Global Network is not, I repeat, not a recognized IRS charity. Instead, raising their funds through what's called, and I'm going to use my air fingers quote, a fiscal sponsor. You know, that's kind of like having a dad, a fiscal sponsor. The smoothest way to hide large amounts of money is the use of global nonprofits. This is the way China Joe Biden laundered billions of dollars in taxpayer funds through Ukraine and into his campaign fund. It is the way the Clintons accepted millions of small cash donations to the Clinton Initiative and laundered them into their personal budgets. As it turns out, there's a global nonprofit called Thousand Current, which would likely have a legal obligation to make reasonable efforts to ensure that the funds they receive are spent consistent with 501c3 restrictions, according to the SEC. Now, the truth is that this stack of SEC, that's Securities and Exchange Commission entities, blocks transparency, and it allows hundreds of millions of dollars to feed the extravagant lifestyles of the founders of the BLM movement without any accountability or payment of taxes. Factcheck.org also notes that another company called ActBlue launders 100% of the funds for Black Lives Matter. The funds are directed through another shell corporation named Global Network, and then forwards some of the donations to Thousand Currents, which is BLM's fiscal sponsor. That's the clear channels. Those are the ones we can really see. Now, from there, it gets pretty muddy. I'm going to do my best to try to make this clear for you. You can play it back and go over it. You can map it out on a piece of paper, but it's designed to be confusing, so stick with me here. The partnership between the clearinghouse, ActBlue, and the nonprofit, formerly the International Development Exchange, was just legally, albeit very quietly, announced in 2016. And this is according to their own website. The nonprofit organization Thousand Currents said It would provide fiduciary oversight, financial management, and other administrative services to the BLM. And to date, it is disclosed exactly nothing to anyone, although ActBlue has laundered nearly $500 million in the name of Black Lives Matter. An ActBlue spokesperson, his name is Caleb Cade, confirmed to the fact-checking site that donations made through ActBlue go to 1,000 Currents for Black Lives Matter. According to Janesha De Rivera, Director of Finance and Administration at 1,000 Currents, the foundation has applied to become its own 501c3. Now, they haven't ever sent in the form yet. They've just begun filling it out, okay? A copy of the form for Black Lives Matter group was requested, Form 1023, which is used to apply for that designation, but the SEC never heard back from them. An IRS spokesperson said copies are only publicly available if the organization is approved for the 501c3 status. So if it's only applied for or never sent in, obviously you can't get a copy of it. So the IRS protects that nonprofit status. But in order to raise a lot of money, and you're basically selling off pieces of the company, you have to go through the Securities and Exchange Commission for these shell corporations. Just because you're a 501c3, that's just your tax status. Now, although fiscal sponsorships are very common, they universally only apply to extremely small organizations that only process a few $1,000s per month. The legal expense to form and report, got to report all the time at once a quarter to the SEC on the financial and business activities such as lobbying and educating, caring for the elderly, the needy. It can be expensive to collect, record, and to file. So small organizations often have a fiscal sponsor, sort of like a big brother, to help cover those expenses and provide the personnel to process those filings. I know of 0 examples where organizations that accept $500 million in cash from global sources that do not have their own IRS filing and make some effort at listing their major donors. Using a fiscal sponsorship or a fiscal sponsor arrangement offers a way for a cause to attract illicit funds and criminal donors seeking influence or use of the organization's members to accomplish things like riots, protests, and election manipulation when it is not yet recognized as tax exempt under the Internal Revenue Code Section 501c3, according to the National Council on Nonprofits. In essence, the fiscal sponsor serves as the administration homepage of the cause. Charitable contributions are given to the fiscal sponsor, which then grants them to the support cause. Benjamin Leff, like L-E-F-F, a professor who specializes in nonprofits, said both ActBlue charities and 1,000 Currents have a legal obligation to make reasonable efforts to ensure that the funds they receive are spent consistent with those 501c3 restrictions. There has been zero efforts by the IRS or the DOJ to see that this has actually taken place. For clarity here, no one can make a tax-deductible charitable donation directly to Black Lives Matter. Donations are redirected on their website to ActBlue Charities. ActBlue Charities then sends this money, less handling charges of course, to another charity, 1,000 Currents, which runs BLM as a fiscal sponsorship. ActBlue also sends donations to BLM to the campaigns of rich white Democrats running for office. Hundreds of millions of BLM funds have been sent to Warren, Sanders, and Clinton campaigns. According to factcheck.org, 1,000 Currents audit for 2019 showed that as of June 2019, about a year ago, the organization held nearly $3.4 million in net assets for Black Lives Matter, not distributed yet. It had released nearly $1.8 million to the group's leaders in the last fiscal year. There are three. $1.8 million is about $600,000 apiece. That's a pretty good living. No loans, no scholarships, no grants to needy black families displaced by BLM riots, fires, or loss of jobs. All the money went to support Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela or the few founders who live lives of the rich and powerful in the penthouses and beaches of numerous cities, all at the expense of hapless fools who are breaking windows, smashing cars, and beating people up. The fact check adds this, and I quote, "The audit also provides a breakdown of how the foundation, referred to as the fiscal project, under a statement of functional expenses, according to De Rivera, spent that $1.8 million in buckets, including on consultants and salaries. Consulting is a classic way to hide laundered funds, because you know what consultants can do? They can write off expenses such as miles and food and housing and charter jets and yachts and transportation." So there you go. All that about Black Lives Matter. So now you know who they are, what they are, and what kind of cash they have gone through, and they don't even exist. Don't even exist. No IRS listing whatsoever. Anybody in Discord have anything to say about that? Anything you want to add in Discord? Nope. Okay. I am streaming this live in Discord. So if you're in Discord, you want to go into Discord, all you have to do is go to that address that I gave you. It's very simple to do. It's discord.gg, and then it's ZB, capital Y, H, capital V, and the number 5. And that's how you get to Discord, my Discord, at America Free Radio. You can just search it out, and I've already given you the invite, so you're invited. You can come in and you can comment with your voice. Let me look at the chat room here. Wow, look at all the people in the chat room. So nice to see. Wow. Kirk, good to see you there. Clintons are corrupt, capital corrupt. Very good. Festus, Piper, good to see you there. Hammelberg, is that in Germany? Are you overseas? You could just... yes, you could nod your head and I'll see that, okay? What is that? NT Dell 73? Brooks time, best time of the week. I like that. And Moverling 5 says, I made it just a few minutes late, and he made a nifty $20 donation in the top chat. If you're in YouTube Live, it's easy to do. I'm at Brooks Agnew, all one word. And you can go in there, and at the very bottom, you'll see a little square with a $sign in it. That's known as the top chat. You click on that, and you can give anything from $2 to $2 million. I don't know what the limit is, honestly. But all that money will go to the North Pole Inner Earth Expedition. Each week, what I do is take the money that accumulates from the 2 programs that I do on YouTube Live, and that money is transferred to a holding company where it accumulates, and when we get enough, we'll let you know that we're ready to do the expedition. And when we get enough, we're going to start a little bigger marketing campaign, because if you know, we've pushed it to 2022. We're going to try to do an Antarctic expedition this winter if we can, and then in 2022 we will do the summer expedition to the North Arctic region to look for an opening in the crust. And it's just interesting stuff. We like to see all that happen. All right, let's continue on here, because we have a lot to get to. Just to define, democracy is the death of any nation. You should know that. Democracy is a word you hear spouted like a flavor, from Democrats. It's often stated that the death of any democracy is when the people figure out they can vote for themselves a piece of the coffer. In actuality, this applies to anything the mob wants. The trick has always been to form a mob in the first place. These days, it's called going viral. Nobody knows how that's done. There's no secret to have an idea go viral. It is almost always artificial, except when it's on YouTube. YouTube has a division of people that choose YouTube stars. Typically, they have they look better on camera than I do. Let's put it that way. Younger, more vibrant, maybe not as smooth or debonair as me, but YouTube's the one that picks the stars. I don't do that. The only way to overcome that is for you all to share and like and subscribe and then share it with your friends. That's the only way to overcome that. It means someone very powerful has the ability to force a concept down the throats of millions of people so deeply that they push back like they're struggling for air. And this force can be directed by this power. Okay? The results have lopped the heads of hundreds of leaders throughout time. And this power is very good at it. For millennia, King Mob has targeted society's icons with varied goals and to varied ends, and few things are more foreboding than his desecration of civic art. Just as the targets have ranged from rulers to clergy, from tyrants to helpless, and from the guilty to the innocent, the outcomes have ranged from victory to defeat depending on society's strength and society's willpower. The promise of bloodshed coming alongside or following shortly after, however, is an historic certainty, almost always the only way out of mob rule or democracy or socialism is blood. The symbols of a people never satisfy. People themselves must always come next. In 1790, mobs looted and pillaged parishes treasured Notre Dame. To the revolutionaries, the cathedral symbolized everything that was wrong with France's history and society and history of kings, tradition, religion, society beset by royal injustice and systemic inequality. And over the next 3 years, the 12th century church's riches and artifacts were stripped. They were stolen. They were destroyed. Their remnants hidden by the faithful and sold off by the faithless. Statues of the Virgin Mary were removed, and statues to the goddess of liberty took their place on desecrated altars. At nearby Sainte-Chapelle, the revolution pulled the apostles from the pedestals where they had stood watch over Christ's crown of thorns. The 12 statues were vandalized and buried, half so badly that they're still undergoing attempts at restoration. As the destruction of religious art unfurled, priests who did not swear allegiance to the new order on the left and those who aided them were summarily beheaded. Back to the cathedral. The revolutionary government mistook the 28 statues of the kings of ancient Judah for French kings. Rich old men, kind of all look the same. They dragged them into the public square for decapitation, and their buried heads were never rediscovered. Actually, for 200 years, they lay buried. In the place, de Louis XV, the large statue of the square's namesake was torn down and the plaza renamed Plaza de la Révolution. A guillotine was raised, and the liberated space would see the execution of more than 1,200. 1,200, from King Louis XVI and his wife to the execution's ringleader himself, Maximilien Robespierre. 1,700 years before, Pliny the Younger described Emperor Domitian's golden statues rudely battered down and made a sacrifice to public joy amidst his toppling and assassination. It was a sport. It's a pastime to humble those statues. They hammered them. They axed them. They stroked blood on them. None was so moderate in the venting of his raptures, none so sober in his overflowing joys, but that he thought it was luscious piece of revenge to see their mangled limbs, their dissevered joints, and finally their grim and ghastly images divested of all their borrowed majesty and thrown to the flames to be melted down into better use and service. So what about here? What about the United States? Mob vandalism. It actually began in 2017 with a statue of an unnamed Confederate soldier escalating to Confederate officers, and then Robert E. Lee, who died a nationally recognized champion of peaceful American reconciliation. When critics, including President Donald Trump, worried the iconoclasm would continue to, Thomas Jefferson, George Washington? He was called an idiot. He was mocked by left-wing reporters and columnists. Even John Oliver made a joke of it. "I'll tell you where it stops," he said. "Somewhere." Anytime someone asks, where does it stop, the answer is always effing somewhere. You might let your kid have Twizzlers, but not inject black tar heroin. You just don't go, "Well, after the Twizzlers, where does it stop?" But rioters, they're not children with candy. And less than 3 years later, statues of Washington and Jefferson were defaced and were torn from their pedestals by the mob. The World War II memorial to America's actual anti-fascists, the real ones, the ones that stormed the beach, took the bullets, climbed the cliff, and sludged through the snow and the mud all the way to Berlin, the real anti-fascists. They were spray painted along with the Lincoln Memorial. A northern abolitionist boycotted in the South was splashed with blood-red paint and a noose hung around his neck. A relief of heroic black Union soldiers was vandalized. The hero of the Union Army torn from his slab, and a monument to 3 black victims of racial violence was defiled. A statue of Saint Junipero Serra was pulled down days later, with one supporter calling for his bones to be dug up and desecrated from his actual grave. Sacred religious statues depicting Christ as light-skinned are a form of white supremacy. Tear them down, race-baiting activist Sean King wrote a few days ago. All murals and stained glass windows of white Jesus and his European mother and their white friends should also come down, they said. On Friday of last week, a statue of a Confederate soldier was strung up and hanged from a lamppost in a ghastly warning of things to come. The protests are now dancing at the intersection of Hargett and Salisbury streets as the downed Confederate soldier statue hangs from a street sign near Raleigh, North Carolina. The same evening, across the country, the second shooting in just days led the mayor of Seattle to announce the mob's armed and walled autonomous zone in Seattle. He wants the wall dismantled. Not happening. For the previous 2 weeks, the mayor of Seattle had withdrawn police from the precinct station and surrounding area, giving up downtown to King Mob, run by Mr. Raz Simone. Well, we're going to let you know about Mr. Raz. Don't you worry. We found out about Mr. Raz. We got some stuff. Some history. He's been around. Does anybody here know what happened to the people who did not get on board with the French Revolution? You ever remember that? Ever read history? Or did you have those books burned? Did you know a member of the mob shouted into megaphone a week prior? Chopped. The mob chanted its violent response. A society that believes in itself builds monuments. A sick society does not. And a dying society watches as they are torn down. While Roman kings, French monks, American Tories, and Russian czarists were unable to defeat the revolutions that first tore down their symbols, today, in the United States, we're just simply unwilling. Blood is already spilling, with civilian defenders, bystanders, workers, rioters killed and seriously injured in cities all across the country. People pulled out of their cars and beat within an inch of their lives. Without a committed and targeted crackdown on this disorder and its leaders, the committed and targeted killings of their opponents and critics, guess what? It's coming next. Am I afraid? Nope. Not in the least. The increasingly violent mobs in our streets are chanting for it, and the revolts of human history have come to it every single time. One difference, though. One difference. In all other times, in all other ages, from Rome to Russia, the public was not armed. The most fearsome fighting force the world has ever known is the armed American. You can be sure the ghost of King Mob is going to try. He always does. So what's going on with Antifa? We've already talked about BLM. What's going on with Antifa? By the way, hello, Mona. Good to see you out there. Ray Jacobs, he says, hello from Florida. Good to have Florida. So now we have both coasts, from Oregon to Florida, and we have people in foreign countries. Yes, very good, very good. Good stuff. You want to listen, you can go to revolutionradio.com or freedomslips.com and click on Studio A. If you want to watch and pay attention on YouTube, you can follow me on YouTube. And remember, subscribing to me on my social media will treat, cure, and prevent the disease of ignorance. So you should do that. It's good for you. So Antifa gets a hit. President Donald Trump announced on Tuesday morning that he's authorized the federal government to arrest those who may vandalize or destroy federal property in accordance with existing laws. And I quote, I have authorized the federal government to arrest anyone who vandalizes or destroys any monument, statue, or other federal property in the U.S. with up to 10, count them, 10 years in prison, per the Veterans Memorial Preservation Act or other such laws that may be pertinent. By the way, this is retroactive. Yes, the action is taken effective immediately, but it may also be used retroactively for destruction or vandalism already caused, and there will be no exceptions, exclamation mark, close quote, he added. This means that all that video that was taken of you guys trying to pull that statue down of Jackson, and by the way, if you really feel compelled that Jackson is offensive to you, you can send all your $20 bills to me. If that image offends you so badly, just put it in an envelope and mail it directly to me. I will take all of that off your hands for you. You don't have to worry about that ever again. Every Jackson you come across, just put it in an envelope and send it to moi, and I'll take care of it for you. Now, the Veterans Memorial Preservation and Recognition Act. It's kind of interesting that it was passed. Democrat Congress, by the way. It was passed, not really enforced because nobody's really gone after the monuments. But it's interesting. You know, the agencies, departments, bureaus, and administrations, right? Did you know that there's an agency that takes care of naming all the monuments? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. A federal agency. And all the employees that work for this agency, they've been working for the agency for a long time. Average salary is about $100,000 a year. How would you like that job? I mean, I haven't really seen one of those monuments like move lately. Have you? No, but they got to be taken care of. The grass has to be cut and the bronze has to be polished. And yeah, the stone plinths and everything, sometimes they need to be replaced because you don't want it to weather, right? They get snowed on and rained on and windstorms and sandstorms and all that. And you got to take care of all that stuff. So that's what the agency does. And they got a little mad that people were vandalizing these things, so they passed this act. 10 years imprisonment for violators. They were serious about it. It specifies destruction toward any structure, a plaque, a statue, monument, public property, commemorating the service of any person or persons in the armed forces of the United States. Now, there are other laws that kind of link together here to protect federal property, but it's 18 U.S.C. Section 1361, for those of you that want to know. You need to read up on this. If you plan on putting a bandana on and going out there and taking down, some statue in your town, like the boys tried to do a couple of weeks ago right up here in Newton, North Carolina. There's a lot of Civil War statues in that park. Oh, yeah, they went up there. But so did my friends in a motorcycle club, and they sat around on the park benches with their shotguns and their AR-15s. And Antifa came in, 2 busloads of them, but they never showed up at the park. They must have slept in or something. I don't know. Maybe they chose to binge on Netflix, but they didn't show up at the park. Why? I told you why. The most fearsome fighting force the world has ever known is the armed American. Why? You know why. We'll cover that in a minute. Jeremiah, good to see you. Thank you very much for the contribution. That is going to be well appreciated, and it will be stored. No, Kirk, I'm not even going to say that on the air. Wow, we don't condone that. Shoot him, he says. Shoot back, maybe. No, we would hold for questioning. Anyway, 1361 states that those who intentionally destroy government property and incur more than $100 in damages are subject to 10 years in prison and up to $250,000 in fine per incident, per person. Not good. Not good. I doubt very seriously that these people all dressed in black, with the megaphones, the little megaphone to the battery. I doubt seriously they have $250,000. But it's now in place, and it's now been fortified with a new executive order. It's not good. You don't want to do it. Social media video showed protesters who had climbed a statue to affix the ropes so the crowd could attempt to pull it down. The statue, however, in Lafayette Square, Andrew Jackson, close to D.C., it resisted. He was a pretty tough guy, but I got to tell you, I heard a helicopter overhead, and I saw some, the little drones, that fly overhead like 30, 40 feet. You can't swat them out of the sky. They're too fast. It flew low and fast right overhead. You know what it was doing? Smile. It was taking all those pictures, and they were face IDing all these people. You know why? Yeah. It could be checked against some kind of facial database. But it was remembering those faces so that when the crowd, all these crowds, all these things are defaced by the same people over and over and over and over again. They go to the next statue, and the drone flies overhead again, and they get a face match. Boom, they're going in. How do I know this? Well, I had a friend who was at the Trump rally Saturday in Oklahoma. It was pretty cool. Big, huge crowd. But they showed up 3 days ahead of time, and he was still about 250 people back from the front of the line. My friend likes to be like the first at the door, so he kind of wiggles his way. And the day of, what they do is they remove the barricades, and the line will kind of snake forward, toward the doors. And there's only one line, but there's like 10 doors going into the place, so the line divides out into 10 lines, and he always manages to get right up there in the front. Well, the interesting thing is there were a couple things that were noticed. One was that there were organizers, like captains or lieutenants, and they were dressed in black, nothing real flashy, not a lot of body piercings or big combat boots or a banner or anything, but what they did have was a cell phone. And what they were doing is they were flying overhead and they were gathering all the cell phone signals from the BLM and Antifa crowds. They were scanning all the cell phones with a technology called Stingray. Yeah, I mean, you put yourself in harm's way like this, you're going to get your cell phone scanned. All the contacts were scanned, and they were all categorized and databased. And one of these people had been at other events as an organizer. It happened to be a woman. And what was she doing? She was moving from place to place in the crowd, and she was giving out orders. You two need to go over here. You five need to go over here. Listen, when these people go to lunch, they're all going to go to lunch, back kind of toward town. It's about a mile away, and a big, long line of people. Their friends were in line. Please save my place. While they walked, down to the Burger King and the Taco Bell and then McDonald's and everything like that, freshen up a little bit, grab some bag lunch, and bring it back to the line. Well, what happened was she organized a movement of protesters to cut the line off. They filled the street. So when those people came back from lunch, they couldn't get to the arena, not without getting in a fight. What they did is the cops found this woman via her cell phone signature. She had her face completely covered. Only her eyes showed. But they tracked her cell phone. And she sat down on the street and acted kind of like a homeless person on the curb by herself. And they tracked her cell phone right to her and arrested her. Yep, stood her up, handcuffed her, read her rights, and off she went. You will never see her again. Ever. That's National Direct Authorization Act detention. You can be detained indefinitely. Moverling, you are far too generous. Far too generous. He said, this on behalf of all of us here watching. Thank you all. Please like and share. And that comes with a $20 club. So better listen to Moverling. He's coming for you, okay? So the other thing that he noticed, not only did they cut the line off and they started arresting these organizers, but as the line began to move into the building, it filled up to about the bottom of the top set of stairs. And it took a long time because they were scanning temperatures and they were letting people wash their hands and giving them masks. Nobody wanted one. It took a long time to fill it up. Now, I've been to these rallies before. And they opened the doors around 2:15, 2:30 in the afternoon. Trump speaks at like 6 or 7 o'clock. So it's 4 hours to fill the place up. Meanwhile, you have, Laura Trump will speak, Eric Trump will speak, Ted Cruz will speak, maybe the My Pillow guy will speak, and then Pence will come out, he's right before the main event, and by then the place is all, jazzed up, and then Trump comes out and speaks for a couple of hours. And that's the way it's done. But what happened was the fake stream news, not us, we're the mainstream news here. We represent the over 100 million people here in the United States. The fake stream news took pictures hours before the place filled up, and those are the pictures that they published. And of course, the lines outside prevented the people from coming in and filling the place up. It wasn't the trollers. It wasn't the people that, faked, got 1 million tickets and it discouraged people from coming. There were plenty of people to fill that place up. They just couldn't get in. So that's how I know these people are being tracked and they're being arrested quietly. But I got witnesses. And I got film. It was done. Numerous people were arrested in D.C. for the disgraceful vandalism in Lafayette Park of the magnificent statue Andrew Jackson. They're going to get 10 years in prison each under the Veterans Memorial Preservation Act. Oh, they might make bail. Yeah, Chrissy Teigen and, other actors and snowflakes, they're going to give money. Not BLM. No, that money's going somewhere else, baby. Believe me. All that money comes, you're going to get bailed out. But I'll tell you what you got. You have a court date. You have a court date. If you don't make the court date, then it's, what you going to do when they come for you. They're going to come for you. They're going to find you. The first time you use a cell phone, the first time you use that debit card, they're going to get you. If you do make your court date, one of two things happens. Well, one thing happens. You have to plea. You have to make a plea. Mr. Smith, we have a video here. We're going to put it up on the screen. This is your face, and this is your voice, and these are your hands on the rope as you're pulling on the statue to pull it to the ground or attempt to pull it to the ground. That is a violation of federal law. How do you plead? Not guilty or guilty? Well, of course, the public defender is going to say, tell him you're guilty. Tell him you're guilty. And then, we'll go for 1 year and then parole, right? Those are the only two choices you get, Bubba. You're going to jail. And chances are they're not going to plea you out. You're not going to get 1 year. You're probably going to get 2 minimum. A lot of these kids, 18, 19, 20, 22, 25 years old, out of work, dropouts from college, got a degree in gender studies or whatever, pink hair, whatever. No, I shouldn't say pink hair. I have pink hair in my family. I should say self-deprecating lifestyle. That's a better one, isn't it? That way I don't have to remember any of the 57 sexes that are out there. But they probably do because they have a college degree in it, but can't get a job. And so they're now a professional rabble-rouser. They're paid by Antifa to go out and bust things up. That's okay. Don't worry about it. You're going to get 3 square meals a day and a fresh set of clothes once a week. What could be better than that? What could be better than you worked hard for it? You worked hard for it. Interior Secretary David Bernhardt also tweeted Monday of this week, I quote, I just left Lafayette Square, where another so-called peaceful protest led to destruction tonight. Let me be clear. We will not bow to anarchists. Law and order will prevail and justice will be served, close quote. Now, over the weekend, protesters in D.C. pulled down and buried the statue of Confederate General Albert Pike. Also over the weekend, protesters in San Francisco pulled down the statues of Union General Ulysses S. Grant, as well as national anthem writer Francis Scott Key. In Portland, statues of Thomas Jefferson, George Washington torn down at schools. Not very well guarded, I'm afraid. Other statues commemorating Confederate and other historic figures were also torn down in various cities recently as Black Lives Matter protests have increasingly targeted symbols deemed racist. Wow. It could also be noted that only Democrats own slaves. Democrats voted against virtually every single civil rights legislation Republicans ever proposed, including the ones this week. The Police Reform Act, voted against it, filibustered, done. Democrats have been doing it since 1848. The best pathway forward for America now is to vote all the Democrats out of office and let the Tea Party fill in the vacancies. We'd still have a two-party system, okay? We'd get experienced diplomacy, national unity, and fiscal responsibility, and all of this crap would end just like that. All right, we're coming up to the end of the hour. I will call for any comments in Discord. Anybody in Discord can hit the control key. There's a bunch of people over here in Discord, but they're not in the general room. So if you're listening to this as a stream on Discord, you can just hop in there and make a comment. If not, then we will continue. So I want to talk a little bit about Mr. Raz, up there, Spaz. Is it Spaz? Or was it Chaz? Spaz, Chaz, Chop. That's what it is. Gosh, I'll get the name sooner or later. Yeah. Off to the food bank, Mona says. Okay. I haven't been to the food bank yet. The food bank's in the other room, behind a couple of doors. It's cold in there. I haven't been to the food bank. I have had a handful of sunflower seeds this morning at 5:30 this morning when I headed to work 130 miles away. I drove 130 miles back, barely made it in the chair, did an hour with Lucky on Quantum Connections, and here I am. I will not get to eat for another hour and 15 minutes, but you are my food, so don't worry about it. I got a little bit of ice cold grapefruit juice here, and I will make it. So who is Raz? You know who Raz is, right? Raz is the king of Chaz. Razimaspaz. His name is Raz Simone. Simone. Who is he? Well, there's a person out there who did some digging. First of all, let me give them credit. I'm going to race down here to the bottom and give them credit because they very humbly put their ID down here at the very bottom of this thread. This would be very hard for you to find, but not so hard for me to find because I got sources. I got people. All right. The source is, and you can follow them on Twitter, is at, and it's AK4, the number 4, AK4WA. I don't know what it stands for. AK4WA. AK4WA. Great researcher. And we will hope to hear more from this source in the future. But now let me share with you this thread. It's going to take a while because Mr. Simone, he'd been busy. FBI Seattle was able to dig this up. Raz Simone, a.k.a. Solomon Simone. Solomon, that's his name. He's owned Aurora Smoke Shop on Aurora Avenue in Seattle since October of 2018. Doesn't sound too strange by itself, does it? But listen closely. Aurora Smoke Shop, LLC, is a Washington limited liability company owned by Solomon Simone. I have the filing date. I have the filing number. All of this is in my Discord if you want to look at it. He also owns another company called Black Umbrella Management Company, the business that received $82,000 in a grant from the city of Seattle. And what might the Black Umbrella Company be doing, do you think? Also, it is a Washington nonprofit, so it got the grant. Now, that's in Gig Harbor, Washington, right? Now, Solomon Simone, a.k.a. Razzmatazz of Spaz. He also owns Commodity Properties. That's an Airbnb type business. In other words, he rents rooms out or rents houses out, and he's an Airbnb superhost, whatever that means. I've never actually rented an Airbnb from a superhost before. But there it is, Commodity Properties, LLC, Washington Limited Liability Company, formed in January of 2017. Now, my source believes that Raz on Aurora has been seen where numerous underage prostitutes are being pimped out. And the general concern is that Mr. Raz is a pimp for underage girls. She says he parks north of, and those people that live in Seattle will know this, parks north of an oak tree on the east side of 99 NB near a strip club that's called the Dancing Bear, and the bear is spelled Bare. It's kind of a play on words, the Dancing Bear. It's a gray Cadillac Escalade there and a black SUV that also parked there, and the girls talk through the window. Now, last week, the SUV had out-of-state plates from Arizona. Rabbit hole number 1. Dancing Bear is located, guess where? I'm just looking in the chat room to see if anybody can guess. Guess where? Right next door to Raz's smoke shop. Now, imagine that. He owns a smoke shop right next to a strip club. Yeah, he probably got stripper glitter on his floor in his smoke shop. And guess what's on the opposite side of the street? Good Guys Pizza. Good Guys Pizza. Kids, they love pizza. They love pizza. I include a map in my notes here. Dancing Bear happens to be the strip club where a bunch of Seattle police officers got into some trouble because they were buying lap dances in an effort, to see if the strippers would prostitute. And I guess some of them did because the officers couldn't keep their hands to themselves. I have a news article here. Veteran Seattle police detective fired in strip club investigation. Yep, he's so sorry. He's got his perfectly good haircut and his suit, and his Oriental wife is sitting next to him, and he's so sorry. An internal investigation revealed that Philip Wall, a longtime detective, used cocaine and provided marijuana-infused chocolates to a fellow officer, among other violations. You gotta love Seattle. You gotta love Seattle. There it is right there in the Seattle Times. And there's a little more here because it appears that there's some human trafficking going on here. That's where the big money is. That's where the big money is. Oh, yeah. You see, when you look into the strip club, it appears that a financial institution is actually being run in front of the strip club. We call that loan sharking business. And guess what? It actually shares the same address. And it's labeled as MetaBank on MapQuest. Got a feeling might just be an ATM, one of those high dollar ATMs. Because why? Because you got to put the dollar bills in, right, baby? You got to put them fivers in the G-string. And that's why they have a cash service right there. So you don't have to drive drunk. You could stay and you could keep drinking and you could put the cash in the G-strings and you can stay with us at the Dancing Bear. Oh, I got more. But we're going to take a quick break on Revolution Radio, and we'll be right back in about 3 minutes. Don't go away. You hang out. Don't go anywhere, you YouTubers. And you people there on Revolution Radio, we are so glad that you're here tonight with me on X Squared Radio, coming to you live through the America Free Radio studios in an undisclosed location east of the Appalachian Mountains. Oh, there's more. Mr. Simone, Mr. Razzmatazz of Chaz of Chop. There's a lot more. Don't go away. We'll be right back as soon as I hear the break music come in from Mr. Producer out there, also in an undisclosed location. Thank you so much for supporting the #1 listener-supported talk radio program in America, Revolution Radio. We'll be right back after this.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Enter into a world unseen on Raven Star's Witching Hour. You will encounter eclectic topics from the realm of spirit brought into our matrix of truth. With your host, the Solaris Blue Raven. Solaris will bring you an array of unique guests covering topics from ghostly spirits to amazing anomalies, covert technology, UFOs, and shadowy global events.
And that's right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Saturdays, midnight till 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Let the magic rise.
We're an anarcho-syndicalist commune. We take it in turns to act as a sort of executive officer for the week. Yes. But all the decisions of that officer have to be ratified at a special bi-weekly meeting. Yes, I see. By a civil majority in the case of purely internal affairs. Be quiet. But by a two-thirds majority in the case of more... Be quiet. I order you to be quiet. Look, you stupid bastard, you've got no arms left. Yes, I have. Look. It's just a flesh wound.
I don't believe I've seen such a display of courage, skill, nerve, grace, and stupidity.
I'll do you for that. Oh, what? Come here. What are you going to do, bleed on me? I'm invincible. You're a loony. The Black Knight always triumphs.
Roundtable Live, Monday through Friday, 1 a.m. till 4 a.m. Eastern Time. Bring your mind, bring your ideas, bring your voice. King Arthur had nothing on us here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com.
This is the people's war. It is our war. We are the fighters. Fight it then. Fight it with all that is in us. And may God defend the right.
Warning! Warning!
We gotta stop them! They're gonna kill us all!
See how the trouble you've started?
Be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone, or human beings. Time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported talk radio station, throwing ourselves upon the gears of the machine. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
You called down the thunder, well now you got it.
Raz, you tell them I'm coming, and hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me!
Revolution Radio.
Okay, we're so glad. Get
All
ready.
right. Thanks for listening while we took that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And yeah, we're going to get back to your host.
Hey, we're so glad you could be back with this second hour of America Free Radio on Revolution Radio Network on freedomslips.com. We are coming to you live from an undisclosed location east of the Appalachian Mountains, and we are also live on YouTube, and we are live in Discord. We are streaming in Discord. You can get to my Discord very easily just by going to discord.gg. You know the drill right there, right? And then all you have to do is put in the address, and my invitation address is very easy. It's ZB capital Y, H capital V, number 5. Okay, Z, B as in boy, capital Y, H, capital V, number 5. Easy to do. Just come join us, and I will accept audio chat when I call for it. Now, I was talking about MetaBank at the end of the last hour. MetaBank is a financial institution that exists in the front portion of the Dancing Bear, and by bear I mean by bear skin, BARE, in the front. So if you don't have to leave the strip club in order to get those dollars to, make sure the girls are compensated for their talents. And it turns out MetaBank also happens to be the financial institution used that sent out the federal stimulus money on prepaid debit cards. Did you get yours? Yeah, it came from MetaBank. MetaBank is one of the largest prepaid debit card issuers in the United States. More than 50% of the debit cards reviewed on getdebit.com are issued by MetaBank. In fact, I think I have one right here. I'm not going to show it my number, but I want to look on the back of it right here. Just let me look on the back. Well, how about that? Yes, my debit card issued says MetaBank on the back of it. Wow. No, I've never been to the Dancing Bear. Don't worry about that. Don't need none of that stuff. Through their premier Meta Payment Systems division, MetaBank services more than 500 prepaid card programs. MetaBank also serves as a traditional financial and lending institution. You've seen those before, right? You go to your local grocery store and they'll have like a rack of them there. You got like better, Bed Bath and whatever. You have pizza places and food places and shoe places. Those are all prepaid debit cards. $50, $100, $200. I give them to my kids, for birthdays and Christmases and stuff like that, because they got little cars. They can't haul stuff home, so you just give them that, and that way they can get whatever they need to, and they always need something. So it's easy to put into a card. MetaBank, 12 brick-and-mortar offices located in 4 distinct market areas. Offices include Central and Northwest Iowa, Sioux Empire, South Dakota and Brookings, South Dakota. Meta's subsidiary Meta Payment Systems manages 4 business segments, including ATM sponsorship, ACH, which means Automated Clearinghouse origination, prepaid debit cards, and other various credit products. The unique super community philosophy on banking has enabled MetaBank to realize continued growth. Now, let's see. The card is a Visa debit card issued by MetaBank and part of the Treasury Department's U.S. debit card program. When they're mailed out, they will come from MetaBank and not the IRS or the Treasury Department. It's touted as a free prepaid card, but it isn't actually really completely free. There's a little charge that comes off on the card, and nobody ever uses the whole card. They leave $2, $3, $4 on it because they don't have another card to couple it with, and you need like 3 or 4 cards to get every single penny off those cards, which I see people doing at the grocery from time to time. But if it's a card in and of it by itself, people always leave $3 or $4 or $5 on it because they just let it age out. It has to be used by a certain time. So some unemployed Americans who opted to have their unemployment checks directly deposited, they got the whole money, but the rest of them got the debit cards. Now, let me just check. I do have somebody in Discord. Jeremiah, do you have a comment on anything that I have been saying so far? I'll take it now. You can give it to me in Discord. All you have to do is press your control key and you can speak and the world will hear you. If not, you can hang out and listen. I notice your mic is muted. That's okay. No problem. No pressure. No pressure at all. You can also listen on YouTube Live, and that's fine too. And I will check the chat from time to time, make sure that everybody is addressed that says something brilliant. Life Dweller. Wow, that's a new person. What was that acoustic bumper music? Well, I think it's something that maybe was played internally. We have several musicians that are part of Revolution Radio, so I'm not exactly sure where that music came from. I'll ask the producer though. Maybe the producer will put it in my Skype. He may be listening actually right now. Ray, good to see you. He says I've worked since I was 15, worked the grind all my life, and I'm so glad I'm retired now. I am living life. I'm not retired yet. I'm old enough to retire. I got Social Security coming, my first check next month, actually. But I think I'm just going to bank that stuff. I'm just going to bank it. And then when I accumulate $1 million or so, I'll do something with it. But I'm good at what I do, paid well for doing it. And it's still 17 hours a day. But, as long as I can do it, I'm going to do it. All right, so let's look a little bit about this MetaBank. I want to cover this because it comes via a place called Operation Hope, operationhope.org. It's a particular section about their partners, about MetaBank's partners and their board members. I always do this, try to, who owns it, who runs it, what kind of deal are we working with here? Because anytime, and I can tell you this, it's like, I don't know, it's like free beer. People just can't resist it. And when you got people in the Clinton crime syndicate and in the Global Syndicate, and they see a lot of money moving, a lot of treasury money that's being put into MetaBank that's going out through prepaid debit cards, you know what? It attracts flies. Yeah, money just attracts these people. So you got to see who has their hand in the cookie jar. And it was the section about board members of MetaBank that got me. Ambassador Young serves on the board of several Fortune 500 companies, was appointed by President Bill Clinton to chair the Southern Africa Enterprise Development Fund. You ever hear of that? You ever hear the Clinton Initiative? Yeah, you ever hear how they said, just send money, be all right. We can take care of everything here in Haiti, just send money. He's on the National Security Council Advisory Board and remains active in numerous charitable activities and organizations. Ambassador Young has received many awards and honors, including the Presidential Medal of Freedom. That really nice one that goes around. It looks way better than this one. Way better. The French Legion of Honor, that would be a nice one to hang in the case too. The Bishop Walker Humanitarian Award, and over 60 honorary degrees from prestigious universities around the world. Diploma mill. I didn't say it. Did I say diploma mill? It was a voiceover, I think. And then there's the bombshell. It turns out Operation Hope is, are you ready? You don't have to be sitting down, but if you're elderly like I am, maybe it would help, because this is a killer. Operation Hope has a $9 million partnership with, guess what? Yep, the William Jefferson Clinton Foundation. How about that? There it is. I have the link right here and everything. Operation Hope America Phase 2020, or 2020 Phase 1. In 2013, that would be in the middle of the Obama administration, Operation Hope committed to securing a range of new cross-sector partners, including private companies, financial institutions, public schools, municipalities, and individuals, to join its National Financial Inclusion Campaign. Everyone's included. America 2020. Don't you love the names of these nonprofits? It's like, da, 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 da. You just got to hear a marching band go by and, the little confetti things. It's great. Everybody feels so good about it, and Medal of Freedom, and, through both existing collaborations and new partnerships developed through this commitment by 2020, Operation Hope expects to financially empower 5 million youth through its financial dignity education program, give 1 million youth entrepreneurship trainings and funding through Hope Business in a Box academies, open 1,000 Empower centers at banks, branches, and open 5,000, blah, 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 blah. You get it. This is the pitch. Just please give your money. In fact, the Clinton Foundation has a whole bunch of connections with Operation Hope, both in the U.S. and around the globe. 8 pages of connections. I have them all. They're in Discord. You can see it under this link that I put out there. You can see it in the I know, yeah, it's shocking, isn't it? Yes, a charity ride may be in order. Yeah, good point, Jeremy. You need to bring a kiddie carnival in, and have a barker with the cards and maybe the baseball and the bowling pins and all that. You got to do something with all this money. So there's more digging here. And I'd love to know if the $1 billion Nigerian scam Governor Inslee, you know who Governor Inslee is, right? Washington State Governor Inslee, Seattle, Washington, Chop, Washington. You see, I'm getting there. To be completely unaware of its connection to Metabank fraud. I'd love to know why Mr. Raz of Spaz, of Chaz, of Chop, Mr. Raz Simone, is getting an $83,000 grant from the city of Seattle when he has a rap sheet like this. Are you ready? Oh my goodness, this is really long and it's really small. Refractory assistance here. Oh my goodness. Wow. Mr. Raz, Mr. Simone, Solomon Simone. Defendant. Petitioner. Defendant. Oh my goodness. There's like 20 things here, 20 crimes. Wow. All these case numbers. One after the other. This guy's had more times in court defending himself against criminal activity than anybody I've ever known, personally. And by the way, there's a link here for Raz's Seattle grant. I could open it up. That might be a good thing to do. Oh, wow. Here we go. $83,250. Remember I told you its name? The Black Umbrella, right? The construction of a recording studio on the second floor of the building housing Black Umbrella will expand their programming capacity to include vocal instrument and sound engineering opportunities, increasing Black Umbrella's ability to fulfill its mission of fostering the growth and development of artists, providing a resource community and driving force in the creation of a supportive, inclusive, and nationally vindicated hip-hop scene in Seattle. You didn't know that Raz, Mr. Simone, he's a rapper. Yeah, he's a rapper. Yeah, not highly, but successful. Okay, recorded rapper. Additionally, Black Umbrella plans to host weekly drop-in studio hours free for educational use and discounted rates for people within the community. I have a feeling there's a lot more to discover connected to Operation Hope and the trafficking of underage girls. And that might be the best place to start digging, particularly with regarding Haiti. You remember all the kids that turned up missing in Haiti. By the way, Raz actually talked publicly about becoming a pimp back in 2014. Oh, no, we have the recording here. MTV.com. You remember MTV? Music, television. MTV.com/news/1723761/Raz Simone cognitive dissonance. There it is. Wants to be a pimp when he grows up. He says, I've done a lot of boxing in all of the shots and the blank and the crotches just for the profit. My girl getting raped and then I couldn't stop it. To top it, the plane crashed with me in the cockpit, he rhymes before explaining how his career as a pimp and the time that he sold drugs to his aunt affected his psyche. From the first track, it's clear that Simone is no saint on So Far, So Far. He threatens to punch his son's mother in the face while wearing multiple rings on his fingers. It all sounds horrendous. But Mr. Spaz, Mr. Raz, Mr. Simone still manages to turn the tables and gain some sense of sympathy from the listener. Quote, when I was a little boy, I had big dreams, big house, big wedding, big ring, close quote. He sings innocently before admitting that he is so far from the man he thought he would be. So there you have it, Mr. Raz, Mr. Spaz of Chaz of Chop, Seattle. And by the way, there have been 4 people now killed by gunshot in Spaz, Chaz, Chop, whatever you want to call it. And that's the way it usually happens with these occupations. Blood spills. It's crazy. So, by the way, there's a Democrat version of this bill. And the Democrat version of a police reform is a riot. Oh, yeah. The way they've given the GOP an ultimatum, you think the Democrats were in control of the Senate, but guess what? They're not. And they were reminded of it yesterday as their threat over passing their pro-rioter police form bill and their subsequent spin fell on deaf ears within the GOP leadership. This is a profound moment. It is a moral moment, said Senator Cory Booker and co-author of the Democrat proposal. The call is for us to act. But it isn't any of that, as most Americans will let you know. Oh, hold on a second here. I need to get back to where I was. I just super paged up. It wasn't what I wanted to do. As most Americans are appalled by the rioting, arson, and looting that has typified Booker's moral movement and his moral moment, Mr. Spartacus, and want the federal government to ensure civil safety first. Also, lawmakers are hesitant to make moves upsetting to voters as they campaign for election. And President Donald Trump, facing his own re-election, wants to continue his winning theme of law and order. And it isn't really law and order. It is equal justice. It is equal justice. Because as I've said many times on this program and others, war is justice denied. You deny justice long enough, you will fight war. That is the cycle. That is the cycle. Justice, war, peace, mercy. That's the cycle. Justice, war, peace, and mercy. And then it builds up, and it goes around and around and around through the history books. If President Trump caves to the pro-domestic terrorism bill proposed by the Democrats, it's not going to be good. Thus, the Democrat bill is dead on arrival at the Senate and the White House. The Democrats can read numbers, and they know this too. Thus, their current teary-eyed protestations are nothing more than saccharine public relations. Ahead of a test vote today, Mitch McConnell, who is the senator from Internet, don't know what happened. Somebody just attacked us, so we're okay. We're okay. We worked it back out. We got we got it back up. Everything seems to be running good. Okay, our stream is good. Everything's good. We got hit on the internet. Don't worry about it. I'm hardwired. I'm not running on a wireless, so everything should be good. The GOP's Justice Act would create a national database of police use of force incidents, limit the use of police chokeholds, and set up new training procedures. And I think that's necessary because there's a lot of brutal police brutality out there that needs to be fixed. The Democratic opposition is being supported by Benjamin Crump, representing the families of course, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, who said the black community is tired of the lip service. Truth is, a black community doesn't suffer much from police brutality. It's mostly white people and other minorities. Fewer than a dozen a year are killed. About about 100 a month, somewhere around 1,010, 1,011 killed in 2019 by police, and over half of those were white. So it's a small amount, And by the way, the vast majority are killed by black police. Now, I know they're saying that that's systemic racism against black people, but most of these people are armed. Very few of them are unarmed, and the one thing that I am really against with the police are the no-knock raids to serve warrants. No-knock raids are done by SWAT, and the SWAT team, they gear up. They have the flashbangs and body armor and face shields, and they go in and do business. SWAT was originally developed in order to free hostages, to go into hostage situations. But you recall, during the Obama administration, what happened was Obama said that he wanted to militarize the police. And you recall that President Clinton wanted to put 100,000 more police on the streets. That's how he was going to clamp down and bring black people to heel, if you remember what Hillary Clinton said in her speeches. And during this militarization of the police, a lot of no-knock raids were developed. And these no-knock raids were not designed anymore to free hostages, to go in and get people out of a bank or out of a hotel or out of an airplane. They were used to serve warrants. And so they went from a few hundred no-knock raids a year to about 20,000. Yeah, 20,000 no-knock raids a year. In 1 year, I think it was 2017. I'm sorry, it was 2016. In 2016, there were 50,000 no-knock raids. 50,000 of them. Can you imagine that? If you don't do them in Alaska and, say, Hawaii, that's over... that's a lot. That's a lot. Every single day. Every single day, it's a no-knock raid. And in these raids, people get hurt. They get killed. And a lot of innocent people get hurt. Innocent people get shot. And that needs to come to an end. No-knock raids to serve warrants. Done. Okay? You're going to serve a warrant. Knock on the door, announce who you are, and serve the damn warrant. It's as simple as that. The bottom line is that Barack Obama is the head of the snake, okay? Newly released notes confirm this. President Barack Obama's key role in surveillance and leak operation against Michael Flynn, against spying on the Trump campaign, and running an illegal criminal operation by using the security or the intelligence services of the United States of America for personal use. Handwritten notes. They were first disclosed in a federal court filing made by the DOJ yesterday. They show President Obama himself personally directed James Comey Chameleon and former Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates to investigate Flynn for having routine phone calls with a Russian counterpart whose name was Kislyak. Now, they couldn't ever corroborate actual conversations and the mood and things that they discussed between Flynn and Kislyak when they were face-to-face. They could on the phone because they had the transcripts. They also couldn't get the testimony from Mr. Kislyak because they killed him. They killed Mr. Kislyak, Ambassador Kislyak, and they killed several other Russians as well. Anyway, the handwritten notes from fired former FBI agent Peter Strzok appear to describe this nefarious January 5th, 2017 meeting in the Oval Office. Okay, who was in the meeting? Well, all these people that I'm about to name need to be printed on an indictment for treason. Pay close attention. Barack Obama, Vice President Joe Biden, Comey Chameleon, Sally Yates, and then National Security Advisor Susan Rice. The meeting and its substance were confirmed in a bizarre Inauguration Day email that Susan Rice wrote to herself to cover her butt. It was at this meeting on January 5th, which was confirmed by testimony from Comey Chameleon and Sally Yates, that Obama gave guidance to key officials who would be assigned with protecting his administration's utilization of secretly funded Clinton campaign research, which we also known as the Steele dossier. It's just a rag. Why you give it a French name and church it up, I have no idea. But it alleged Trump was involved in a blah, 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 and you know all that. The plot to commit treason was planned and it was managed by Barack Obama himself. And President Trump has been saying it all day long. Anyone that would stop a mic in front of his face, he's been saying it. Why? Because charges are coming. Everyone at this meeting should be arrested and should be tried in a court of law. Sally Yates told the special counsel that Obama broke the news of Flynn's phone calls with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak to her during the January 5th meeting. She didn't even know about it. She is the one who detailed further involvement from Obama. She wrote in her email, and I quote, President Obama said he wants to be sure that as we engage with the incoming team, we are mindful to ascertain if there is any reason that we cannot share information fully as it relates to Russia. Close quote. The new notes, which were just uncovered yesterday, which record Comey Chameleon's accounting to Strzok of the meeting's substance, constitute definitive evidence that Obama himself was personally directing significant aspects of a criminal investigation into his political enemy's top foreign policy advisor. That, my friends, is treason. You make sure that you look at things and have the right people on it, Obama said. Comey Chameleon's description that the Flynn-Kislyak phone call appears legit, shorthand for legitimate, is also in the notes. But until this week, until yesterday, this exculpatory information was withheld from Flynn, and it was withheld from his defense team. Multiple congressional committees were also denied this information. The American people denied this information. A lengthy campaign to illegally leak selected defamatory information through media accessories damaged the Trump administration and spurred the appointment of a special counsel. And you know the rest. Impeachment Show Season 2, Season 3, Season 4, and Season 5, and the grand finale, Impeachment Show Season 6, where he was exonerated. It was interesting. Mr. Joe Biden barely can remember how to zip his own pants up now. He says, I know nothing about these moves to investigate Michael Flynn. And by the way, that was on ABC's Good Morning America. When George Stephanopoulos asked what he knew, and it was kind of interesting that later he admitted that statement was actually a lie. The meeting to strategize against the Trump administration included just a few key law enforcement principles. Their testimony about what transpired is sometimes in conflict. Yates claimed Comey Chameleon brought up the Logan Act, while Comey claims Biden cited it. Rice claimed Obama directed that the anti-Trump operation be run, quote, by the book. But Comey Chameleon, you know he's a chameleon, right? Changes roles all the time, and he looks into the camera and lies his ass off. He claimed Obama even directed which personnel to use. All parties agree, however, on the main substance of the meeting, which was a discussion of how to target Michael Flynn for his legitimate phone calls and withhold vital national security information from the newly elected presidential administration, which they did. Now, according to Attorney General William Barr, which, by the way, every hour on every channel they are calling for his disbarment, let alone his removal from office, the Democrats are screaming bloody murder because William Barr has directed an investigation into the spying and into the Obama leaking operation. And this investigation is led by the very silent and very deadly Attorney John Durham. Durham, whose investigation is ongoing at this very minute, at this very hour of the evening. And he has not yet issued any indictments or reports of his findings thus far, and he probably will not issue reports because Mr. Durham is dedicated to getting the job done, not dedicated toward making a press release, not dedicated toward making political points. General Barr has repeatedly stated that if Durham finds evidence of criminal wrongdoing that can be proved in a court beyond a reasonable doubt, then those responsible for those criminal acts will be held to account. The handwritten notes from Strzok, which were included in a court filing from the Justice Department, were filed under seal by order of guess who? Oh, you'll never guess in a million years. Emmett Sullivan. Does that name sound familiar? Mr. Sullivan, that was ordered by the appellate court to dismiss the charges against General Michael Flynn today. That's the same Sullivan that ordered the handwritten notes from Strzok sealed months and months ago. Right. That's the same judge. That's a conflict of interest. The judge has ordered the documents to be hidden. From who? Well, from Flynn's attorney, right? From Flynn's superstar legal team. And he's given no indication that he will ever allow all of the evidence filed by the DOJ to be publicly disclosed. Why? Why would he not be interested in justice? Because he's not. He's interested in covering up for the Obama administration. When the DOJ moved to dismiss the charges against Flynn, it was Sullivan who refused to grant their request. He even appointed a shadow prosecutor to target Flynn on Sullivan's behalf. Well, he was overruled today under a writ of mandamus, 2-1. And my question is, why in the world would one of those judges vote with Sullivan? That would be interesting to find out, wouldn't it? So what's going on? What is the big plot? Why are we talking about war? Is justice denied? As you know, Labor Day is coming up, right? And we know what happens in Labor Day on election years. The campaign begins. Oh, yeah. People think that it begins, but it doesn't really begin. It doesn't really go until Labor Day. That's when it really cranks up. I don't think President Trump is going to stop. I think he's going to have a rally a week, and the pressure is going to come on. And I have a little something I want to share with you. By the way, thank you very much, Moverling. On behalf of all of us, great show, Brooks. Thank you. I appreciate that so much. Where do I live? Florida is awesome every day. That's what Ray says. Yeah, it's awesome from November to May, Ray. But from June through the summer, it's a little too hot for me. I like the North Carolina. We're like right in between hot and cold. You know, it doesn't get too wintry. It doesn't get too summery. We have more clear blue skies. That's why we call it Carolina blue than any other state on the eastern seaboard. And that's the way I like it. So I'm going to stay right here. Anyway, it's happening right before our very eyes. The final chapter of the World Revolution by Communists. It's referred to as World October. The countries of the West, you should know by now because we've already come through Operation Corona Scare, almost through it now. They're still struggling to contain the Chinese Operation Corona Scare, and now they are desperately trying to get their grounded economies back running. They're still being actively blocked by the global media empire, still executing Operation Corona Scare. Our own governor says, oh, you got to wear masks to go outside again. You know what I say? I'm not wearing a mask. You know why? Because I'm hearing impaired, and my face is my speech. Your face is your speech. If you cover it with a mask, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. I can't read your lips. I don't know what you're saying, and I don't know how you're saying it. Okay? In other words, the mask is discrimination against the hearing impaired. They're censoring free speech by forcing people to cover their faces in public and to stay away from one another except to protest the republic. It's true. I want to bring up one point. Discord. Somebody boos in the Discord, and I know she's anxious to make a comment, but I want to bring this up because one of the things that you're going to see in the next little bit, let me see here, make sure that, well, you know that Starlink is going up, right? I could play this link here, but I'm afraid of a snafu. So in the book, I explained something, and it's prophetic, and it's sort of the headliner for the program tonight. Because actions are being taken against nationalist and social democratic leaders, party activists, former civil servants, officers, priests. I mean, the last vestiges of private enterprise and ownership are about to be obliterated. They're going to try. The nationalization of industry, finance, and agriculture, almost complete, almost done. In fact, all of the totalitarian features familiar from the early stages of the Soviet Revolution and the post-war Stalinist years in Eastern Europe, they're almost in place. The Democrats have almost got it done. Had they won in 2016, this would be over. It would be over, okay? Just try to enter a bank if you need to and do some business. You'll find out that bank is closed unless you make an appointment online ahead of time first and you wear a mask. They did this. They did this already in 1930. They did it. They closed off the banks to the public. The situation, Earth Explorers, is not under control. The situation is disgustingly out of control. Most of the American politicians, media, and educational systems are training another generation of people who think they are living in peacetime. That is not true. That is false. The United States is in a state of war. We are in a state of war. People are dying. It's undeclared. Total wars against the basic principles and foundations of this system we have, but we're at war. You know it, and I know it. And the initiator of this war, it ain't Comrade Andropov. It's not Putin. It's the Global Syndicate. It's the Global Syndicate, and it's made of three mighty divisions. The military division is Communist China. The political division is the Democrat Party. The media division is made of a small group of 6 media moguls and 4 tech giants. Got knocked off the air already once tonight. They could do it again. The latter 4 men are richer than all but 7 of the world's largest countries. You don't have to be paranoid about it. Just listen. When I say the bomb is in play, I mean it. Every second, it's ticking away. The disaster is coming closer and closer, and you will have nowhere to defect from it, okay? Unless you want to live in Antarctica with the penguins. This is it. This is the last country of freedom in the world. It's the last possibility, the last defense of freedom and liberty is right here, right now. In the next few months, you're going to make either an effort or you're not. We are very near the end of this republic, but there is hope. A revolution has begun. I am the voice of it, or I'm trying to be, and you are now part of it. Well, Brad Parscale, he's been President Trump's campaign manager nonstop for 5 years. It's never happened before. People come and the election happens and then they go away. You have long term. You got Kellyanne Conway, you got Brad Parscale, you got tech geniuses, okay? His team is built on several levels with extremely talented and patriotic people. One small group is known as Q, Another was led at one time by a man named Sean Spicer. He may still be involved on a cursory level. But the real technology has been gathering in space for years, and it is almost complete. It will go around the social media, and it's going to go around the tech giants. It's going to go around the fake stream media that controls cable TV and the networks. I have been telling you since I published the #1 bestseller, Charm a Favor. You need to get that book and read it, okay? There are more than 100 million Americans that love and support President Trump. Believe it or not, about 25% of them have never voted before. In the book, I explain how the EAS, the Emergency Alert System, will be used to reach every person inside America. They don't have to be citizens. It's going to reach everyone. All the patriots will be reached at the same time with the same message, unfiltered and uncensored by the global media empire. The syndicate will try to stop it, and they can stop it with a terrible EMP weapon. But we pray every day that we can find it and disable it, or the people who are plotting to use it. The syndicate does not care at all how many innocent people have to die for them to recover their power and destroy America. We can stop them if you join the revolution tonight. There's a new satellite internet system called Starlink that is being built as we speak. For the third time in 3 weeks, SpaceX is preparing to launch a batch of satellites for the company's Starlink internet network from Florida's Space Coast. Liftoff of a Falcon 9 rocket is set for Thursday, tomorrow, if the weather permits. Liftoff is going to happen at 4:39 p.m. Eastern, okay? The launch Thursday will be SpaceX's 4th Falcon 9 mission in less than 4 weeks, continuing a whirlwind cadence of launches that began May 30th with the liftoff of SpaceX's Crew Dragon spacecraft carrying NASA astronauts Doug and Bob into orbit. We watched it. It was phenomenal. SpaceX launched another Falcon rocket June 3rd with 60 Starlink satellites, and most recently delivered another 58 Starlink payloads into orbit, with the Falcon 9 rocket June 13th on a flight that also carried 3 commercial SkySat Earth imaging satellites to space for Planet. Thursday's mission is going to be SpaceX's 11th launch just in 2020, and it'll be followed by another launch June 30th from Pad 40 at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. The launch June 30th is scheduled for a 15-minute window opening at 3:55 p.m. if you're curious to watch it. SpaceX plans to test fire the rockets for its next 2 missions this week. The previously flown Falcon 9 rocket assigned to the Starlink Black Sky launch is scheduled for a hold-down test firing of its 9 Merlin main engines Wednesday on Pad 39 if you're in the area. Now, SpaceX's Starlink network is designed to provide low-latency, high-speed internet service around the world. SpaceX has launched 538 flat-panel Starlink spacecraft since the beginning full-scale deployment of the orbital network in May of 2019, making the company the owner of the world's largest fleet of satellites. SpaceX says it needs 24 launches to provide Starlink internet coverage over nearly all the populated world, and 12 launches would enable coverage of higher latitude regions such as Canada and the northern United States. The initial phase of the Starlink network will number 1,584 satellites, according to SpaceX's regulatory filings. Now, you need to pay close attention because there have been some casualties here. A British competitor, a company called OneWeb, they tried to build a 650 satellite mega constellation to provide space-based internet access to customers around the world, including remote access that typically have not had reliable connectivity because no one will stretch the cable. Nobody will build the cell towers. To do that, the company tried to mass produce high-speed broadband internet satellites, each of which weigh about 325 pounds. The SpaceX ones weigh about half a ton. Its factory, by the way, is near NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Cape Canaveral. Now, on March 21st, right in the middle of Operation Corona Scare, OneWeb launched 34 satellites into orbit on a Russian-built Soyuz rocket that lifted off from Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. The mission, provided by Adrian Space, came just a month after a similar 34 satellite launch on a Soyuz from Baikonur on February 6th. To date, OneWeb has only launched 74 satellites into low Earth orbit. That's not enough to get their network going. And so they recently filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The satellites are still up there. They're still operational. According to Space News, OneWeb had raised $3.4 billion in funding to date, $2 billion of that from a company called SoftBank. But some outside analysts suggest that the company would need $7.5 billion, and SoftBank refused to meet the last capital call, forcing the company to close. The OneWeb system's equipment may be absorbed into the Starlink network as they are primarily Linux-based CubeSats. Remember, Patriots, like it says in the scriptures, and pay close attention to Psalm 34. I put a few in my own words in here too. I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth. My soul shall make her boast in the Lord. The humble shall hear thereof and be glad. O magnify the Lord with me, and let us exalt his name together. I sought the Lord, and he heard me, and delivered me from all my fears. The angel of the Lord encampeth round about them that fear him, and delivereth them. Keep thy tongue from evil, and thy lips from speaking guile. Depart from evil, and do good. Seek peace, and pursue it. The eyes of the Lord are upon the righteous, and his ears are open unto their cry. The face of the Lord is against them that do evil, to cut off the remembrance of them from the earth. The righteous cry, and the Lord heareth, and delivereth them out of all their troubles. The Lord is nigh unto them that are of broken heart, and saveth such as be of contrite spirit. Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivereth him out of them all. He keepeth all his bones, not one of them is broken. Evil shall slay the wicked, not the righteous. And they that hate the righteous shall be desolate. The Lord redeemeth the soul of his servants, and none of them that trust in him shall be desolate. Have no fear when the wicked turn in on themselves, Earth explorers. The weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth shall not harm you. Hold to the right, and remember, many are called, but few there be that choose. Choose this night whom ye will serve. I will be with you always. God bless America. And I hope that he does. I know that there are evil men out there. Spaz of Chaz of Chop is an operative. He was given tens of thousands of dollars from the city of Seattle. He runs a trafficking operation and probably a porn operation out of his recording studio above his smoke shop next to the strip joint. All of this is tied in. And by the way, the bank that gave the money tied into the Clinton Foundation, you can see the circle goes around and around and around. And now they have seized property inside America, and they are daring Trump. They are daring him to take military action against them. But it is quickly decaying. Why? Because as I read you in Psalm 34, the wicked shall slay the wicked. Just like is happening in Chicago, just like is happening in Yemen, the wicked shall slay the wicked, not the righteous. Do not be provoked to violence. That is not us. Once they provoke you to violence and provoke you to hate, they've won. They've taken your soul. Don't do that. Look for the good in others and help it to grow a little every day. Please let envy flee far from you. Don't be jealous. Don't be envious. And don't curse your brother for his success or your sister for her success. Have joy. And remember this. Every Wednesday, every Sunday here at 8 p.m., we go live on America Free Radio Studios with X Squared Radio. I'm your host, Brooks Agnew, saying, peace, Earth Explorers. Now go and do and produce. Be kind to each other. Look for kindness and feign violence. Pray for justice, and justice will come. And if there's a Trump rally near you, go check it out. And thanks for being in Discord tonight. Those of you that were able to listen out there, Sirius, Love, Julesy, several others out there listening, I appreciate you. Next time, maybe we'll get some comments from you. Let me check out the chat room really quick. Ray, thanks for being there. Justin Holt, I'm so glad that you're out there. It means a lot to me to have you out there. And to my good friend Steve down in Houston, or down in Dallas, who made it to the Trump rally, wanted me to give him a shout out. I'm glad you're my friend, Steve. Keep up the good work. We'll see you next week right here on America Free Radio.